My name is what? My name is. My name is.
This morning, I remember thinking about some of my experiences and some really bitter experiences that I went through. And I couldn't help but think about how those experiences opened up a part of me that I didn't know was there, and it helped me to discover what I like and what I don't like. And because I know that part of myself, I'm able to pick or make decisions that bring me peace. Those traumatic or really bad memories opened up a part of me that future Grace was able to use to make decisions that brought me peace or that brings me peace. And so what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we go through things in life and we hate every second of it. You know, what's that Muhammad Ali quote? I hated every minute of training. You know? Sometimes the storms that we go through, we hate it so much. Some of the experiences that we go through, some of the parents that we had, some of the relationships that we had, like the way a certain boyfriend treated you, or the way that a certain friend treated you, or the way that, like, you know, people at school, like your experience at school was, and you hated every second of it. But sometimes God has to put you in some really terrible situations so that you can know yourself. Sometimes it's not just about just like being strong, or it's him trying to build you up. Sometimes God is trying to show you, like, this is a part of you that you don't know that it's there. And that part of you is going to be important in the future when you have to make some serious decision making. Because in the future, 5 years from now, you're going to have to make a decision. And if you don't know this part of you yet, you're going to make the wrong decision. And somewhere down the line, you're going to wake up one day upset and miserable and unhappy with yourself because of the decision that you made. Because you made that decision when you didn't know who you are. So sometimes I would allow some friends to treat you a certain way so that you realize, like, I don't like the way that person talked to me. In the future, when I'm making friendship decisions, I'm not going to have a friend who talks to me like that. Or when you have a man who is very like absentee or always like busy, and you hated it before you got into a relationship with that man, you didn't know that he was that, like, dating a busy man was not your thing. It took you getting into a relationship with a super busy man, a workaholic, to realize, I don't want to be with a busy man. So the next time a super busy hustle guy, I'm all about my hustle, my job is my baby, guy walks into your life, you're just like, I've done that before, I don't like that. Now think about it. If you had never dated a guy who's a workaholic, and the first guy who proposes to you is a workaholic, and let's say he's a workaholic it's the early stage of the relationship, so he's very attentive and he's loving and whatever, the signs of, you know, workaholic is there, but it's not as hardcore as it's going to be when you guys are married. So you go ahead and you marry him, and now you're stuck with a workaholic for years. But now that you've dated a workaholic for years and he really wasted your time, the next time when you're dating a guy who's a workaholic, trust me, it's not going to take you like 6 months to figure out that that's a workaholic, because you wouldn't know all the signs and symptoms. Sometimes God allows bad things to happen to you so you know yourself, so that in the future you will know when you're faced with important decisions, you will choose a decision that will bring you peace. There are some ways or certain ways that you get treated by maybe people in society, or, you know, or family members or whatever, and it takes the years of maltreatment like that for you to know, I understand, like, I don't like it when people do this to me. And so the next time when you meet someone who does something similar to you, you're just like, this is not going to work. It took you seeing your parents' dysfunctional relationship and the way that your dad treated your mom, or the way your mom treated your dad. And even though it was traumatic for you, seeing your parents get divorced, seeing the nightmare that they went through with each other, it was necessary for you to see that. Because now that you're old enough to get married, you know what to look for. Like, I don't want a man who talks to me the way my dad used to talk to my mom. I don't want a woman who talks to me the way my mom used to talk to my dad. I don't want a woman who emasculates me the way my mom used to emasculate my dad. I don't want a relationship where we're screaming and shouting at each other the way that my mom and my dad used to do, you know? Sometimes these bad experiences are teaching moments so you can understand yourself. Because if you go through life all naive and everything is, peaches and cream, and you have not really been opened up to certain parts of yourself, when you come to that junction where you have to make a serious decision that can really impact your life, you could end up making the wrong choice. And a good example of this is divorce. Many people who get divorced, a lot of them didn't really know themselves when they got married. It's only entering in that marriage that they realize that I don't like when someone does this to me. I don't like when someone does that to me. I don't like when this happens, when that happened. They just went into it with like feelings and love and this and that, but they didn't really understand. Unfortunately, some people are in like love triangles, or they're being pursued by two people at the same time, and they have to pick one. If you don't truly know yourself, you might go for the flashy one. Let's say a wealthy man wants to marry you, and you like him, you like his personality, and there's another guy, he's financially stable, but he's not as wealthy, and you like him too, but you don't know that part of yourself that's like, I love quality time. I need a man who will make time for me. And so you go for the rich guy who probably works a lot. A lot of wealthy men or men who have money, they're very busy. And so their wives, a lot of times, they have to use that money to compensate for the absence of their husbands. And so you go for the flashy because, that's the early stage of your relationship. He's just loving on you and just showing you the world. And so you marry him, and then the butterflies die and the honeymoon phase is over and he's never around and you're absolutely miserable. But had you been exposed earlier, or had maybe been in some sort of relationship where you were with a man who was a workaholic, or you had a father who was a workaholic and he was never at home, even you as a child feeling the absence of that father would prompt you to not want to marry a man who's never there, because you saw how miserable it made your mom, and you don't even need to be in that position to understand how empty that can be. Don't minimize the experiences that you go through, because they open you up to parts of you that you would have never known had you not gone through those things. Don't minimize your memories, your experiences, the traumatic experiences you've had, as painful as they are. Don't minimize them. Sometimes it takes you being in a relationship with a person that yells at you all the time, raises your voice at you, talks to you like a child, for you to understand, like, I don't like to be yelled at. I don't want a man who raises your voice at me. I'm not your child. I don't need a woman who raises your voice at me. I'm not your child. And when you meet that man or that woman you're about to get married to, those are the conversations you're gonna have. Like, I've been in that place where a person that you're in a relationship with yells at you. I'm not doing that. So that's like my deal breaker. Never raise your voice at me. I'm an understanding woman. Whatever you need to say, you don't need to scream for me to understand. But I will not tolerate that. It's when you know yourself that you're able to place boundaries. How can you even know what your boundaries are when you don't even know who you are? Do not minimize the things you've been through, because they open you up to parts of yourself that you wouldn't have known was there had you not gone through those things. Anyway, this is all I have for today. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video.